candidates. So could the rigorous schedule tire out both the candidates and voters? Joining us to talk about that and much more, RNC Communications Director Sean Spicer and Jen Psaki, former White House Deputy Communications Director under President Obama. Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, Sean, do you think that the voters are getting worn out at this point, or do they need to learn still more about these candidates in these debates?
Oh, I think if you look at just the ratings alone, these are a great opportunity for our candidates to explain the alternative that they're presenting to President Obama. Last night's was focused on foreign policy, but you've had one on the economy and several just in general. And I think that the American people are hungry for trying to figure out what our side will offer as a contrast to President Obama. And you can just tell how much energy is on our side by the number of people who tune in.
Well, and Jen, these debates certainly give the White House a good look at all of the positions that each of these contenders are taking.
That's right, and there's always a debate about how many debates or too many debates. So we talk about that every 4 years. And, you know, this gives an opportunity for the American people to see what the candidates are putting on the table and what they're presenting. And last night we saw some concerning endorsements by Republican candidates running for president, including the idea that we should eliminate foreign aid. Putting aid to a country like Israel. That's key for their security. So it really does expose to the American people what candidates represent, whether they agree with it or disagree with it, and that's what the debates always present every 4 years.
All right, so looking ahead, we've got some polling numbers out that put some of these GOP contenders head-to-head with President Obama if the election were held right now. Let's talk about some of these numbers that we've got. From the latest Rasmussen poll that came out on Friday, President Obama versus Mitt Romney, 43% for the president, Mitt Romney at 42%. I mean, he looks generally to be the tightest match right now, Sean, for the president.
Well, I think actually if you look at all of our candidates, most of them are within the margin of error. A year out from the election, an incumbent president should not be where he is now. I think that spells trouble. I think when you look at what the number one issue is, jobs, the economy, debt, and deficit, the direction is going in the wrong way for the president. And overall, you've got 75% of the American people saying this country's in the wrong direction. So whichever one of our candidates makes it out of the primary at the end of this calendar, I think we're going to have a lot of the horsepower behind us. We've got the issues behind us, and I think the president's got the most important piece of this is this isn't like it was in 2008. This is not an open seat. So record and policies that he has to defend, and I think he's on the losing end of those policies.
Well, Jen, it's interesting. If you look at the generic polling that came out, also Rasmussen, this came out earlier this week, if you put a generic GOP candidate against the president, the GOP candidate comes out with 46%, whereas the president comes out with 42%. But when you start breaking it down to specific names, a Romney, a Kaine, a Gingrich, a Perry, the president seems to do better. Why is that if you're talking about a specific candidate versus the GOP in general?
Well, Shannon, because every election is a choice. And whenever the Republicans narrow down to whomever their nominee will be, it will be a choice between the president and that nominee. So right now it looks like Mitt Romney is leading the pack. It changes every week. What Mitt Romney is presenting on the economy versus what the president is presenting on the economy. I agree with Sean that the economy will be the biggest issue. Right now, there hasn't been a lot of time to focus on the economy and the real issues because there have been so many controversies that have been talked about, whether it's Herman Cain, whether it's Perry's gaffe. And I think the president's really looking forward to having a debate about the policy and the substantive issues that the people in this country care about.
Sometime this week, and it may be at the end of this week and it may be early next week, but in the next several coming days, this country is going to cross the mark of $15 trillion of debt. Most of it, the last $4 trillion, in 3 years under President Obama. The American people are ready to have someone talk about those kind of issues, what we're going to do to preserve the future for this country, get Americans back to work, and address this deficit and debt issue that we have. So I think that we're going to have, once we settle on one candidate, a very rigorous debate and contrast the policies that have been over the past 3 years under President Obama and a plan for the future.
And I would guess that both the Republicans and the White House, Jen, are looking forward to that. We'll all be watching. Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you.